everybody, welcome back to another episode of Kavanaugh's Corner. Today in the channel we're going to be talking about a film that I picked up just about a week or so ago, and I wanted to review this because this is a release that I could not find anywhere else. This version of the release is an exclusive to Best Buy, and this is definitely one of the most avant-garde, some people have even called it strange, but it really is a very simple tale, just done very artistically and extremely well by director Nicholas Roeg, and that is The Man Who Fell to Earth, starring David Bowie, Candy Clark, Rip Torn, Buck Henry, just a ton of great actors and actresses in this film. And this was David Bowie's debut here. And I have to say, his performance in this is really unbelievable. You can kind of believe that he's an alien. I mean, he was already a very otherworldly type of superstar at that point. But this movie, in my mind, really cemented his just artistic ability to kind of do anything. I mean, this guy was a great actor. If you ever seen the film Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, that is another outstanding performance from him in that film. Another movie that comes to mind, of course, is Labyrinth. Again, that's a kind of a more not so serious film, but this performance in this movie, he captures that essence of being a stranger in a strange land. He just seems so dejected throughout the entire film, and supposedly that's because he really was like that at that time. He definitely had an extraordinarily awful habit with Bolivian marching powder, and without getting into details here, he was not in the greatest of shape when he was doing this movie. He shortly went on to do his Thin White Duke persona and the Station to Station album, along with Low and a lot of other like really fantastic albums. But it was such a dark time in his life, and this movie, again, he's so good in this, and he looks fantastic throughout the entire thing, even though he looks like a twig. He's really amazing, and the movie as a whole benefits from his performance in my mind. I could go on and on about this movie. I really enjoy it, even though it is very abstract at times. There are moments in the film where there's like a single cut, and many, many years have gone by, and there is nothing to tell you that that has happened. Nicholas Roeg does not hand feed the audience anything, and that is extraordinarily different compared to a lot of the movies that you see today. And this is the new 4K Ultra HD disc here, and we're going to be talking about the picture quality, the audio quality, and we'll go over the special features at the end as well. But first and foremost, I got to show you this packaging here. You're probably not going to see my face very well, but this is the packaging. You can see has that slip cover with the lightning bolt that is so famous from the album cover of Aladdin Sane. And you can see it reveals that Bowie has that alien eye on the front, and you can see the back, the illustration here. If I open it up, you'll see the illustration of the ship coming to Earth, crashing to Earth there at the beginning of the film. And you also get the two discs here. The 4K has got Bowie in his alien form, and the other side there is that ship kind of crashing into Earth there. So kind of a really cool cover. I really like this, and if you remove this, you can see it shows Bowie in the alien form with the that space suit, that really crazy looking space suit that he's seen in a couple shots in the film. So pretty cool stuff there. Really, really like the packaging. This actually may be one of my favorite Steelbooks I own now. But let's talk about the film transfer here. Now, this is a 4K transfer. It's a 4K digital intermediate, and this does have HDR10 and Dolby Vision. And I do have to say that I don't remember ever seeing this on Blu-ray. I could be wrong. But I still own, I should say, the Criterion DVD from, it's got to be like almost 20 years ago now. I think I got that. But that disc was, fairly good for its time. It had a lot of special features on it. And I think I actually had the book as well. I actually had the Walter Tevis novel that came with it, so that was really cool. But this here, the picture quality on this one is a total night and day change. I mean, this film looks really, really good. I was very impressed by the transfer that Lionsgate did here. Actually, the transfer is done by Studio Canal. Lionsgate does a lot of their releasing here in the United States. This should be pretty much the same exact disc that came out in the UK, but I'm glad we finally got it here in the United States. It looks really fantastic. That Dolby Vision does quite a lot to brighten up the film. Not to an extreme extent. It still looks very filmic. It still very much resembles what the original film looked like, or should look like, I should say. But the color grading now is so much more lifelike, and I don't want to say more vivid, but it definitely is more accurate than any of the previous transfers that I've seen. They really brought out the different shades of colors that you see in this film, the browns, the yellows, the oranges, especially Bowie's hair, that really stands out now. Right from that opening title card, you can see the back of his head. It's vividly orange now, but it's not overblown. It really looks just like if were looking at the movie in a very clean state. It looks good. It looks really good. The grain is apparent throughout. Again, it was shot on film. This is a movie from the 70s, but it does not look overly grainy ever. It looks very filmic, and I'm going to use that term filmic a lot because this is one of those movies that, has that kind of look. There are some shots where they use some optical effects. They do look slightly grainier when they go to those optical effects. There's not a whole heck of a lot of it in here, but it is there from time to time. It's much, much brighter. The picture is much brighter than it was before. Black levels are also helped quite a lot. The nighttime scenes do look a lot better than they did before. There is one scene in particular where Bowie is in the back of a limousine, and it's at night. And that looks so much better on the 4K than it does on anything else. The older DVD, there was a massive amount of black crush. You could barely make out anything in that limousine, and now you can really see just a little bit more detail, even though it is a very, very dimly lit scene. It looks great. I thought the movie looked really good. The film was cleaned up fairly well. I did notice a time or two where there was some kind of like artifact on the screen, almost looked like lines in a couple scenes here and there. But for the most part, I'd say like 98% of the movie looks really good. And I'm so glad this movie finally got a very, very good transfer. So the other thing I wanted to talk about here is the audio. The audio on this, the 4K audio differs from the audio on the Blu-ray. So the 4K has a 2.0 PCM stereo track, and that is pretty much just another way of saying a lossless stereo track. It sounded really good. It could have been, I think honestly, it could have been a little bit better in terms of balancing out the dialogue and some of the background sound and the music. The balance on it was very good. I mean, it's not awful, but there were a few times where I kind of struggled to make out what some of the characters were saying in terms of dialogue. Maybe that's just me. I'm probably going deaf, but Anyway, I think this movie could have benefited from a 5.1, even though there isn't a whole heck of a lot going on in terms of sound in this movie. The music, the dialogue, the sound effects, it really could have used a 5.1. I think that could have opened up certain channels for better just clarity and separation, but the stereo track on it is not bad at all. It's a very solid track. The special features on this are all on the second disc. They're all on the standard Blu-ray. They did not keep any special features on the 4K disc. They needed to save that room for the movie because the movie is a little over 2.5 hours, I think. It's just about 2.5 hours. So again, it was it's a pretty big size. It probably takes up most of that 4K disc. But the Blu-ray itself does have a ton of special features. There is a vintage interview from a French television program with David Bowie from '77. There's interviews with the costume designer May Routh, where they actually show some of the original costume sketches that she did for the film. There is an interview with still photographer David James, which is really insightful. I thought that was actually one of the better interviews on this. There is an interview with Sam Taylor Johnson, who's a big fan of the film, who is a director herself. That's kind of an interesting one. It's interesting to hear what she thought of the film and how it influenced her career. So that's kind of cool. They have an interview with producer Michael Dealey. There's also an interview with director Nicholas Roeg, cinematographer Tony Richmond, writer Paul Mayersberg, and an interview with actress Candy Clark. They're all very insightful. The featurette about the lost soundtracks of this film is probably my favorite one. There's interviews with Paul Buckmaster and author Chris Campion, who, he's written about this film. He's kind of a Bowie historian, I would say. And Buckmaster is actually one of the guys who worked on the soundtrack of this film. So that's an interesting one because this soundtrack, as far as I know, has never been released. So it's an interesting thing. Bowie was going to do the soundtrack to the movie, and he ended up just not being able to get it done in time. It just never happened. There is also a trailer for the film, and the movie also comes with a digital code that redeems in 4K through Lionsgate. So I think it gives you the movie on Vudu or one of those services. Anyway, do I recommend getting The Man Who Fell to Earth on 4K here? I would say that if you are a fan of this film, then I recommend it. It is definitely not a film for everyone. I know a lot of people, the first time you watched this, you probably were like, what the hell did I just watch? But that's kind of was my feeling too the first time I watched it, and then I watched it again and I watched it again, and it's grown on me a lot over time. This is definitely not a movie for someone who's looking for a straightforward kind of science fiction film. It is very much not that. It is a wildly different take on that kind of genre. But Bowie is masterful in this. I love his performance in this, and it's a very, very artistic type of film that you don't see anymore. I mean, very rarely do you see a movie like this come along, and I think honestly it's worth the buy. Like I said, this is really only available at Best Buy, so you'll have to order it through either their website or see if they have it in store. This was out of stock for a long time. So when my local store got it and I saw it and it was actually on sale, I grabbed that thing immediately. I grabbed this right away. Anyway, I'm Andrew Kavanaugh. I want to say thank you so much for coming back to Kavanaugh's Corner. If you really want to support the channel, please hit that thumbs up button and subscribe down below. Also, make sure you hit that little bell icon so you can be notified when I release videos. Again, if you really want to help me out on the channel here, there is a super thanks button. It looks like a little heart, and you can donate directly to the channel. That is a massive help. This movie was not sent to me by Lionsgate. I had to buy that with my own money. So, again, if you appreciate these reviews, a couple bucks goes a long way, even if it's just a dollar. Again, it adds up over time, and it is a huge help for me here. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. And as always, thank you for coming back to Kavanaugh's Corner. Please stay safe and take it easy.